My sister wiped out my bank accounts and ran off with her boyfriend. I was devastated, sitting there not knowing what to do next. That's when my daughter calmly looked at me and said, "Don't worry. I took care of it." I didn't think much of it until a few days later, my sister called me, completely losing it, screaming like her life was falling apart. Can you imagine the betrayal? My own sister, the one I practically raised, didn't just break my heart. She emptied my bank accounts and vanished with her boyfriend, leaving me with nothing. I was drowning in despair, utterly shattered, until my 9-year-old daughter looked at me with an unnerving calm and said, "Mom, don't worry. I handled it." My name is Clara. I'm 35, a single mom living in Seattle, and I never, not in my wildest nightmares, thought my own sister would betray me this way. Maya came into my life when I was 7. I still remember the warmth of her tiny fingers wrapping around mine the first time I held her. Despite our 7-year age gap, we forged this unbreakable bond. I taught her to ride her bike, helped with homework, even chased away the monsters under her bed. She was my shadow, always wearing my hand-me-downs with such pride, trying to mimic my every move. We shared secrets, whispered dreams, that unspoken language only sisters truly understand. Our childhood wasn't perfect, not by a long shot, but we always had each other. When my parents started their terrible fights, Maya would crawl into my bed, and I'd tell her stories until she finally drifted off. The fighting just got worse. I was 18, Maya just 11, when they finally called it quits. The divorce was brutal, truly ugly. They used us as pawns in their bitter games. My mom moved across the country for a fresh start. My dad? He just buried himself in work, found a new, much younger girlfriend. My college plans? Gone. Someone had to be there for Maya. That someone was me. I put my own life on hold. I got a job at a local retail store. Every single morning, I'd wake Maya up, make her breakfast, check her homework. Every evening, I'd cook dinner, help with her assignments, make sure she had absolutely everything she needed. I wasn't just her sister anymore. I was her stand-in mother, her counselor, her best friend, all rolled into one. "You shouldn't have to do this," my dad would mumble during his rare, guilt-ridden appearances before disappearing again. My reply was always the same: "She's my sister." It was that simple to me. Later, when Maya started high school, I was working 2 jobs. My friends were graduating from college, moving on with their lives, while I was serving coffee by day, waitressing by night. But seeing Maya flourish, seeing her smart, popular, determined spirit, that made it all worth it. When she got accepted to college with a partial scholarship, I swear I felt prouder than if it had been my own achievement. "I'm going to pay you back for everything someday," Maya promised the night before she left. "Just succeed," I told her. "That's all the payback I need." Even though our bank account was practically empty after buying her dorm supplies, I meant every word. At 25, I met David. He was charming, ambitious, seemed to absolutely adore me. A year later, we were married, and I was pregnant with Eva. For a while, life felt perfect. Maya was doing well in college. I had a steady job as an administrative assistant, and David and I had a small, cozy apartment. The day Eva was born was the happiest day of my life. She had my green eyes, David's dimples, and I just fell head over heels in love. Maya drove 4 hours to meet her new niece, bringing a handmade blanket she'd spent months knitting. "She's perfect, Clara," she whispered, using my childhood nickname. "You're going to be the best mom ever." But that fairy tale, it just cracked when Eva turned 3. David started coming home late, always with flimsy excuses about work. His phone was always locked. He grew distant. When I found lipstick on his collar, yes, as cliché as it sounds, he didn't even try to deny the affair. Within months, our marriage imploded. David moved across the country with his new girlfriend, barely keeping in contact with Eva. Just like that, I was a single mother. Heartbroken. Drowning in bills. Those first months were a blur of tears, sleepless nights, endless worry. Maya, who had just graduated college, immediately packed her bags and moved in with us. "I've got you, sis," she promised. "Just like you had me." Having Maya there felt like a godsend. She helped with Eva, cooked meals when I worked late, and made me laugh when all I wanted to do was cry. But after a few months, little things started happening. Things I just brushed aside. $20 missing from my purse that I was sure I'd left there. Bills Maya offered to pay online, but somehow never got paid, leading to annoying late fees. A credit card I rarely used suddenly showed unusual charges. Maya would explain them away as surprise gifts she was planning for me. "Did you take money from my wallet?" I asked once, the words tasting bitter as they left my mouth. "Clara, I can't believe you'd even ask me that," Maya replied, her eyes welling up. "I must have borrowed it for groceries and forgotten to tell you. I'm so sorry." And just like that, I felt this crushing guilt for doubting her. This was Maya, the little girl who once gave her entire allowance to a homeless man, who stayed up all night with me when Eva had her first fever. If she borrowed money, it was an innocent mistake, not theft. After about a year, Maya found her own apartment nearby. She still came over almost daily, often watched Eva when I had to work late. Eva absolutely adored her Aunt Maya, who brought her little gifts and took her for ice cream every Saturday. They had sleepovers building pillow forts, staying up late watching Disney movies. Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs. But when you love someone, you make excuses. You build explanations to protect the image you have of them. And I loved my sister too much to see what was happening right before my eyes. 5 years after David left, I finally found my footing. Through night classes, countless hours of overtime, I clawed my way up from administrative assistant to marketing manager. That promotion brought a substantial raise, better hours, more time with Eva. She was 9 now, growing into this remarkably perceptive little girl. "You're not as tired anymore, Mom," Eva observed one evening, her small hands carefully stirring pasta sauce as we cooked dinner. "That's because I don't have to work 2 jobs anymore, sweetie," I replied, the words catching in my throat as I realized how much my exhaustion must have affected her. With our improved finances, I achieved what once felt impossible: buying our own home. It wasn't huge or fancy, just a modest 3-bedroom in a safe neighborhood, good schools. But it was ours. The day we got the keys, Eva ran through every single room, immediately claiming the smallest one with the bay window. "We're never leaving, right, Mom?" she asked, her green eyes so serious. "This is our forever home," I promised, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. For the first time since David left, I could truly breathe financially. I opened 3 separate accounts, each with a specific, sacred purpose. First, a college fund for Eva, $15,000, a start toward her future. Second, an emergency fund, $21,000, painstakingly built over 5 years, every spare penny I could find. And finally, a savings account with $20,000, earmarked for a small business. My dream was a marketing consultancy, something I could run from home, allowing me to be even more present for Eva as she grew. $56,000 in total. That money represented years of sacrifice. Packing lunches instead of buying them. Cutting my own hair. Taking on freelance projects every single weekend. Never buying anything that wasn't absolutely essential. Each deposit, no matter how small, was a victory in my quiet battle for security. But as my life stabilized, Maya's seemed to spiral. Her calls became erratic. Sometimes daily, sometimes weeks of silence. She'd jump from job to job, always with dramatic stories about unreasonable bosses or toxic workplaces. Her appearance changed too. 1 month, expensive clothes. The next, she couldn't afford a haircut. "Can I borrow $500 until payday?" became a regular request. The amounts grew larger. Payday sometimes never came. I'd gently remind her about previous loans, and she'd get defensive or tearful. "I can't believe you're counting dollars with your own sister," she'd sob, her voice trembling. After everything we've been through, those words always hit their mark. I'd transfer the money, telling myself it was temporary. Just family helping family. After all, hadn't I put my entire life on hold for her once? Then Ryan entered the picture. Maya met him at a bar where she was waitressing, and she fell hard. Fast. Within weeks, he was all she talked about. Charming, ambitious Ryan, with big plans and an even bigger personality. He's going to start his own business, she gushed. He just needs some capital to get it off the ground. When I finally met Ryan at a dinner I hosted, something just felt off. He was handsome, in a conventional way. Perfect white teeth, designer clothes that seemed far too expensive for someone between opportunities, as he described himself. He absolutely charmed Maya, finishing her sentences, his arm possessively around her waist. What exactly is this business you're planning? I asked him over dessert. Import-export, he replied smoothly. I have connections overseas. It's all about who you know. His answers to my other questions were equally vague, sliding away from specifics with practiced ease. But what concerned me even more was how he examined everything in my home with these calculating eyes. He asked pointed questions about my job, my salary, my savings. After they left, Eva tugged at my sleeve. I don't like him, Mom, she said simply. Why not, sweetie? I asked. He looks at our stuff weird. And he made Aunt Maya cry in the bathroom. I heard them. I dismissed her concerns as just childhood intuition, mixed with a protective instinct towards her aunt. Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, I explained. It doesn't mean he's a bad person. In retrospect, God, I should have listened to my 9-year-old daughter instead of doubting her perception. Maya's requests for money only escalated once Ryan became a permanent fixture in her life. It was always some new emergency, car repairs, medical bills without insurance, security deposits for apartments. She mysteriously had to leave quickly. Each time, her gratitude was effusive, but so short-lived, immediately replaced by another new crisis. 2 months ago, I got a frantic call. I was preparing for an important 3-day business conference in Portland. Maya was sobbing, barely coherent. Ryan and I got evicted, she cried. The landlord gave us no warning. We have nowhere to go. Without a second thought, I offered them my spare bedroom. You can stay as long as you need, I assured her. Mrs. Evans next door agreed to help with Eva while I was at the conference. The night before my trip, Maya asked for my banking password. Just in case there's an emergency while you're gone, she explained. What if something happens to Eva and we need money for the hospital? I hesitated. Financial boundaries were always a minefield with Maya. She was so quick to accuse me of not trusting her whenever I set a limit. I've set up an envelope with emergency cash in my dresser drawer, I countered. And I'll have my phone the entire time. Her face fell. You still don't trust me, after everything? She said, voice tight. I'm 30 years old, Clara, not a child. To avoid an argument before my trip, and honestly, to prove that I did trust her, I reluctantly wrote down my banking password. I left it on the kitchen counter, emphasizing, only for a real emergency. A cold uneasiness settled in my stomach, but I pushed it down. As I drove to the airport the next morning, Maya and Ryan waved from the porch. Eva was between them, already in her school uniform. If I had known what would unfold in the next 72 hours, I would have slammed on the brakes, turned the car around, and run back into that house. But I didn't know. I simply waved back, called out a final "love you all," and drove away, leaving everything I valued in the hands of the sister I trusted completely. The marketing conference went exceptionally well. My presentation impressed several potential clients, and my boss even hinted at another promotion. During breaks, I called home to check on Eva. She sounded happy, excited about her aunt staying over. Ryan is teaching me card tricks, she told me during our last call. And Aunt Maya said we can have pizza tonight. That sounds fun, sweetie. I'll be home tomorrow afternoon, and we can have a movie night, just the two of us. Okay, Mom. Love you, infinity. Love you, infinity +1. I replied, our usual exchange. Everything seemed perfectly fine. Until it wasn't. On my third and final morning at the conference, I tried calling Maya to confirm my arrival time. No answer. I texted, assuming she was busy with Eva's school drop-off. By noon, with still no response, a nagging worry started to gnaw at me. I called Mrs. Evans, who confirmed she'd taken Eva to school that morning, as arranged. Maya asked me to watch Eva after school, too, she added. Said she had some errands to run. Is everything okay? I'm sure it's fine, I said, more to reassure myself than her. Probably just phone problems. As I waited to board my flight home, I decided to check my bank accounts. Something I hadn't done during the busy conference. I opened the banking app on my phone, entered my password, and watched as my entire world collapsed in an instant. My balance for all 3 accounts, 0. I blinked. A glitch, surely. I'd logged into the wrong account. I logged out and back in. Same result. My emergency fund? Empty. Eva's college fund? Empty. My business savings? Empty. $56,000. Gone. My hands started shaking so violently, I dropped my phone. The boarding announcement became a distant, muffled noise as blood roared in my ears. I couldn't breathe. A kind stranger picked up my phone, concern etched on her face, asking if I needed medical help. Somehow, I made it onto the plane. The 3-hour flight was absolute torture. My mind cycled through increasingly desperate explanations. It had to be a banking error. Maya's phone was broken. She'd explain everything. Maybe a security breach, and the bank froze the accounts. Deep down, though, I knew none of those scenarios were true. Landing in Seattle, I called Maya repeatedly as I rushed to my car. Still no answer. I drove home, breaking every speed limit, praying I was wrong about what I already knew had happened. Our house looked normal from the outside. The flowers Eva and I had planted still bloomed in the front yard. The porch light was on, as if waiting for my return. But inside, something felt immediately terribly off. A stillness. An emptiness. Maya's guest room was cleared out. No clothes in the closet, no toiletries in the bathroom, no note on the bed. Just a faint, lingering scent of her perfume. I called the police, my hands shaking so hard I could barely dial, reporting the theft. The officer who arrived took down the details with professional detachment. Family fraud is unfortunately common, ma'am, he explained, typing notes into his tablet. Do you have any idea where your sister might have gone? No, I whispered, the reality crashing down heavier with each passing minute. I thought I knew her. The officer's expression softened slightly. We'll file the report, but I should be upfront. Recovery in these cases is difficult, especially with family members who know your personal information. After he left, I sat motionless at my kitchen table, staring at the wall. The shock was physical. My body felt cold. My lungs couldn't fully expand. My stomach was a tangled mess of knots. I'd trusted Maya with everything. My home, my daughter, my entire financial security. In return, she'd taken it all. I called my neighbors hoping someone had seen something. Mr. Davies across the street had noticed Maya and Ryan loading suitcases into their car the previous evening. Thought they were just going on a trip, he said apologetically. They seemed in a hurry, but not suspicious. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't process the sheer magnitude of what had happened. The emergency fund, meant to protect us in crisis? Gone. Eva's college fund, the one I'd sacrificed so much to build? Gone. The business savings, representing my dreams for our future? Gone. But worse than the money was the betrayal. My sister, my baby sister, who I'd practically raised, who'd held my hand through my divorce, who Eva adored. How could she do this to us? I found a single note, tucked into the kitchen drawer where I kept takeout menus. 5 words in Maya's handwriting. I'm sorry. I had to. Had to? Had to steal from her own sister? Had to rob her niece's future? What possible justification could there be for such a betrayal? The hardest part was yet to come, telling Eva. How do you explain to a 9-year-old that the aunt she adores has stolen our security? How do you preserve a child's trust in people after such a fundamental betrayal? I picked Eva up from Mrs. Evans that afternoon, trying desperately to compose myself for her sake. But one look at my face, and her smile instantly faded. What's wrong, Mom? She asked. Let's talk at home, sweetie. Sitting on our living room couch, I tried to find gentle words, but there was no soft way to describe such a harsh reality. Honey, something bad has happened. Aunt Maya and Ryan took the money from our savings accounts. All of it. The money for college and emergencies? Eva asked, her voice tiny. Yes, I confirmed, tears finally breaking through. And they left without telling us. I'm so sorry, Eva. I trusted her, and I couldn't continue. Sobs racked my body. For the lost money, for the shattered relationship, for my daughter, who deserved so much better than this chaos. I had failed to protect her, failed to see what was happening right under my own roof. Eva watched me cry with this strange, unsettling calmness, her young face showing a maturity far beyond her years. Then she said the words that would change everything. Mom, don't worry. I handled it. Through my tears, I just stared at Eva, completely bewildered. Her face was so serious, so utterly determined. Not at all what I expected from a child who'd just been told her beloved aunt had betrayed us. What do you mean you handled it? I asked, wiping my eyes. Eva stood up, walked into her bedroom, and came back with my old smartphone, the one I'd given her for games after upgrading mine last year. She sat beside me, her small fingers navigating to the photo gallery with practiced ease. I never liked Ryan, she began, her voice steady. He smiled weird, not with his eyes. Sweetheart, what are you talking about? 2 weeks ago, I heard them fighting in the guest room when you were working late. Ryan was telling Aunt Maya they needed money fast. Big money. Eva's face scrunched up, reliving the memory. I was scared. So, I started recording them on your old phone whenever they were here, and I was around. She handed me the phone. It showed a video file dated 10 days earlier. With trembling hands, I pressed play. The video showed my kitchen from an unusual angle, apparently hidden behind the fruit bowl on the counter. Maya and Ryan stood arguing, their voices hushed but intense. Your sister is loaded, Ash. Ryan hissed. 3 accounts with almost 60 grand. We could use that. I'm not stealing from Clara. Maya replied, looking genuinely horrified. She raised me. She's done everything for me. And now she gets to live in this nice house while we get evicted again? She owes you. Ryan's handsome face was utterly transformed by greed, his eyes cold, calculating. Besides, it's borrowing, not stealing. We'll pay her back after my deal comes through. I watched in stunned silence as my sister shook her head, insisting she wouldn't betray me. The video ended, and Eva queued up another one from the following day. This one showed a different angle, she explained, a hint of pride in her voice. From behind a plant in the living room. I got better at hiding the phone. In this recording, Ryan's tactics had completely changed. No longer demanding, he was pleading, his arm around Maya's shoulders. Baby, I'm in trouble. These aren't the kind of guys you can just tell, sorry, don't have it. They'll find me, and it won't be pretty. His voice broke convincingly. I never told you this, but they broke my brother's legs over less money. Maya's face was etched with fear. Why didn't you tell me before? How much do you owe? 50,000. I was trying to protect you from worrying. My heart sank. Ryan was manipulating Maya, playing on her sympathies. And from the look on her face in the video, it was working. There are more, Eva said quietly, scrolling through dozens of video files. I recorded everything when they were here. How did you know to do this? I asked, astounded by my daughter's foresight. Eva just shrugged. From those detective shows we watch. The bad guys always talk about their plans if you listen long enough. The next video showed Ryan on his phone in our backyard, speaking in a completely different tone than he used with Maya. Yeah, I found a perfect mark, he was saying, grinning. Sister's got at least 50 grand saved up. And the best part? She trusts the girlfriend completely. We'll clean it out and be in Mexico before they know what hit them. My stomach churned. Ryan wasn't just opportunistically taking advantage of Maya. He had targeted us. From the very beginning. But the most revealing video was from the night before I left for the conference. It showed my bedroom, filmed from what appeared to be Eva's hiding spot in the closet. Maya was sitting on my bed, head in her hands, while Ryan paced. I can't do this, Maya sobbed. Clara will be devastated. Ryan's charming facade had completely vanished. You don't have a choice anymore, he snapped. Either she loses some money, or I tell her about Tampa. Maya's head jerked up, her face pale. You wouldn't. Clara. Your perfect sister doesn't know everything about you, does she? How do you think she'd feel knowing what you did there? The threat hung heavy in the air. Maya's shoulders slumped in utter defeat.
Fine.
But we're paying her back. Every cent. Sure, baby. Whatever you say. Ryan's smile was cold, victorious. I paused the video, my mind reeling. Tampa? Maya had never mentioned Tampa to me. There's more, Eva said, pulling out a small notebook from her pocket. I wrote down their conversation. When they didn't know, I was listening. Ryan's real name isn't Ryan. It's Daniel Thompson. He told Aunt Maya to never call him that, but I heard her use that name when they were fighting. I stared at my 9-year-old daughter in disbelief. While I had been obliviously trusting my sister, Eva had been conducting a thorough investigation. There's one more thing, she said, taking the phone back and opening a different app. I set up your laptop in the guest room as a security camera. I told Aunt Maya I needed it for a school project, but I was really using that spy program you installed when you thought I was playing too many games. The irony might have made me laugh in different circumstances. The parental monitoring software I'd installed was now providing critical evidence. Eva pulled up a video showing Ryan going through my desk drawers, finding the banking password I'd written down, and taking a photo of it with his phone. Later in the same video, he opened my laptop and accessed my accounts, writing down all the details. I saved everything to your cloud storage, Eva explained. So, even if they took my phone, we'd still have the videos. I gathered my remarkable daughter into my arms, holding her so tight. Eva, you are absolutely incredible. But why didn't you tell me what was happening? Her small body tensed against mine. I tried, Mom. I told you I didn't like Ryan. I told you I heard them fighting. But you said I was just being jealous of Aunt Maya. Shame washed over me. She was right. I dismissed her concerns, too blinded by my love for Maya to see what was happening. I am so sorry I didn't listen to you, I whispered into her hair. That was wrong of me. Eva pulled back, her expression serious beyond her years. It's okay, Mom. Adults make mistakes too. That's why I got the evidence. So you'd believe me. In that moment, the roles felt strangely reversed. My child comforting me, showing wisdom while I floundered in betrayal and disbelief. What do we do now? Eva asked, practical as always. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. My 9-year-old had just given us a fighting chance to recover what was stolen. Now it was my turn to be the parent she deserved. Now, I said with newfound determination, we take all this evidence to the police. And we find Aunt Maya and Ryan before they spend all our money. The next morning, I called the police department. This time, instead of the dismissive response I'd gotten the day before, we were told to come in immediately. Eva insisted on bringing her entire investigation kit, the phone, her notebook, and a folder filled with printed screenshots. Detective Miller, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who reminded me of the no-nonsense teachers I'd always respected, greeted us. She gave Eva a genuine smile. I understand you've collected some evidence, she said, directing her words to my daughter with appropriate seriousness. Eva nodded solemnly and opened her folder. I have video, audio, and written documentation, she replied, sounding like a miniature FBI agent. Under any other circumstances, I might have laughed at her formality. For the next hour, we showed Detective Miller everything Eva had gathered. She watched the videos with increasing interest, pausing occasionally to take notes or ask clarifying questions. When we reached the video where Ryan mentioned his real name, she straightened in her chair. Daniel Thompson, she repeated, typing something into her computer. Let me check something. A moment later, she turned her monitor toward us. The screen showed a mugshot of Ryan, or rather, Daniel, looking significantly less polished than the charming man who'd entered our lives. Daniel Thompson has quite a record, Detective Miller explained. Fraud, identity theft, confidence schemes. He's wanted in 3 states for similar scams, targeting women, usually through their female relatives or friends, gaining access to finances, then disappearing with the money. He's done this before? My voice sounded hollow, even to my own ears. Many times, she confirmed. His specialty is finding vulnerable women, gaining their trust, then using them to access their family's resources. Her expression softened slightly. Your sister isn't the first to fall for his manipulation, Miss Taylor. Can you find them? Eva asked, leaning forward anxiously. With this evidence, absolutely, Detective Miller said. We can put out alerts, freeze accounts, and coordinate with other jurisdictions. She looked directly at Eva. You've done exceptional work here, young lady. Most adults wouldn't have been this thorough or quick-thinking. Eva beamed with pride, sitting up straighter in her chair. We'll need formal statements from both of you, the detective continued. And I'll want copies of all this evidence, but I'm confident we can build a solid case. As we left the police station, I felt the first stirring of hope. The money might still be gone, but at least Maya and Ryan, Daniel, wouldn't simply get away with it. 3 days later, Detective Miller called with news. They'd traced activity on my credit card to a hotel in Las Vegas. Local police were preparing to make an arrest, but they needed me to confirm certain details first. We believe they've already spent a significant portion of the money, she warned me, but we might be able to recover whatever's left. That evening, as Eva and I were eating dinner, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. When I answered, Maya's voice exploded through the speaker, so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. How could you, Clara? How could you send the police after your own sister? She was screaming, her words slightly slurred. They arrested Ryan at the casino. They're outside our hotel room right now. I put the phone on speaker, my hands suddenly shaking. You stole $56,000 from me, Maya. From your niece. What did you expect me to do? He needed the money. They were going to hurt him. You have no idea what you've done. What I've done. The sheer absurdity of her accusation just broke something inside me. You emptied my savings accounts. You took Eva's college fund. Ryan said we'd pay it back. It was just temporary. I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. Is that what he told you while he was planning your escape to Mexico? While he was calling you his perfect mark? There was a moment of stunned silence. What are you talking about? Your boyfriend is a con man, Maya. His name isn't even Ryan. It's Daniel Thompson. He's wanted in 3 states for scamming women exactly like you. You're lying, she hissed. But uncertainty had already crept into her voice. The police showed me his record. This is what he does, Maya. He finds women, uses them to access their family's money, then disappears. You're not special to him. You're just a tool. Shut up, she screamed. You're jealous because someone finally loves me more than they love you. You've always had everything. The nice house, the perfect daughter, the successful career. What do I have? Nothing. Her words hit me like physical blows. Was that really how she saw our relationship? As a competition? I put my entire life on hold for you, I said quietly. I gave up college to raise you. I've bailed you out financially more times than I can count. I welcomed you into my home, trusted you with my daughter, and now you've ruined my life. Her voice broke. Ryan will go to prison because of you. Ryan ruined your life. I corrected her, my voice steady. And you helped him ruin mine. How much of our money is left, Maya? A pause. I don't know. Ryan handled the money. How much did you spend? Another longer pause. About $30,000. Ryan was on a winning streak at the casino. He said we'd double it, then triple it. $30,000. Gone. In 3 days. More than half of everything I'd saved. The police are knocking, Maya said suddenly, her voice smaller. What do I do, Clara? That childhood nickname, it nearly broke me. For a second, I saw the little girl who'd followed me everywhere, who'd trusted me to keep the monsters away. Tell them the truth, I advised, my voice steady despite the tears streaming down my face. All of it. They'll arrest me, too. Probably. I can't go to jail. Please, Clara. Tell them I didn't know. Tell them Ryan forced me. Did he? A long silence. Not exactly. But he said things about Tampa. He threatened to tell you. What happened in Tampa, Maya? I can't. Her voice cracked. The police are coming in. I have to go. Maya, wait. But the line went dead. I sat there, staring at the phone, the unanswered question hanging heavy in the air. What had happened in Tampa? What power did it give Ryan over my sister? Eva, who had been silently listening to the entire conversation, placed her small hand over mine. Aunt Maya sounds scared, she observed. She is scared, I agreed. She made terrible choices, and now she has to face the consequences. Will she go to jail like Ryan? I hesitated, unsure how to explain the complexities of the legal system to a 9-year-old. I don't know, sweetheart. It depends on many things, including whether she tells the truth about what happened. Eva nodded solemnly. She should tell the truth. That's what you always say is most important. Out of the mouths of babes, right? The simplicity of my daughter's moral compass somehow made the entire situation clearer. The truth was indeed what mattered most now. Not just for the legal consequences, but for any hope of healing the broken trust between my sister and me. Later that night, Detective Miller called again. Daniel had been arrested on multiple outstanding warrants. Maya was being held as an accomplice, but was cooperating with authorities. They had recovered approximately $26,000 from the hotel safe, less than half of what was taken, but far more than I had dared hope. We'll need you to come to Las Vegas to make a formal identification and statement, she explained. The district attorney there will want to talk to you about pressing charges against your sister. Pressing charges against Maya. The words felt utterly surreal. This was my baby sister. The girl whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, whose nightmares I'd soothed, whose high school graduation I'd attended with tears of pride. How had we arrived at this point? As I lay awake that night, I couldn't stop thinking about Maya's accusations. Had I really had everything while she had nothing? From my perspective, I'd sacrificed endlessly for her, put her needs before my own, time and again. But perhaps from her view, I was the successful sister, the one who always had it all figured out, always telling her what to do, always the responsible one she could never measure up to. The truth, I suppose, usually lies somewhere in between. But understanding her perspective couldn't excuse what she'd done. $56,000 represented years of careful saving, countless small sacrifices made for Eva's future. Taking that wasn't just stealing money. It was stealing security, opportunity, dreams. In the morning, I would need to book flights to Las Vegas, arrange for Eva to stay with Mrs. Evans, and prepare to face my sister across an interrogation room table. But for now, I just let the tears come. Mourning the relationship I thought we had, and facing the painful reality of what actually existed between us. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department headquarters was nothing like the cozy police stations you see on family-friendly TV shows. It was imposing, sterile, with harsh fluorescent lighting that only emphasized the dark circles under my eyes. I'd barely slept on the overnight flight, my mind cycling through memories of Maya as a child, as a teenager, and finally, as the woman who had betrayed me so completely. The district attorney assigned to the case, Ms. Rodriguez, met me in a conference room. She was brisk, efficient, laying out the evidence against both Ryan, Daniel Thompson, and Maya. Mr. Thompson is facing multiple felony charges across several jurisdictions, she explained. Given his prior convictions, he's looking at significant prison time. Your sister's situation is more complicated. Complicated? How? I asked, cradling the department-issued coffee that tasted like it had been brewing since last week. She's a first-time offender, and she's cooperating. She claims Mr. Thompson manipulated and threatened her, which may be partially true based on his history. However, the evidence your daughter collected clearly shows she ultimately made a conscious choice to participate. My chest tightened at the mention of Eva's evidence. My 9-year-old's detective work was now part of a criminal prosecution. What are her charges? Grand theft, fraud, identity theft, though the last one might not stick, since she was authorized to be in your home. She's looking at up to 5 years, potentially more with aggravating factors. 5 years. My sister in prison until she was 35. The thought made me physically ill. Is there any alternative? I asked hesitantly. Ms. Rodriguez studied me thoughtfully. You're considering not pressing charges? I don't know, I admitted. She's my sister. We grew up together. I practically raised her after our parents divorced. Family fraud is the hardest kind, Ms. Rodriguez said, her professional demeanor softening slightly. But it's also the most damaging. Your sister betrayed your trust in the most fundamental way. I know. However, she continued, there is one possibility. If your sister agrees to testify against Mr. Thompson and provides information about his other criminal activities, we could potentially offer a plea deal with reduced charges. What would that look like? Possibly 18 months in a minimum security facility, plus probation and restitution orders. But that depends entirely on how valuable her testimony is and her level of cooperation. 18 months. It still seemed like an eternity, but it was so much better than 5 years. And restitution meant she would eventually have to pay back what was taken. Can I see her? I asked. Ms. Rodriguez made a phone call, and 30 minutes later, I was led to a small room with a metal table bolted to the floor. When they brought Maya in, I barely recognized her. Her usually perfect hair hung limp around her pale face. The designer clothes were replaced by an orange jumpsuit that made her look small and vulnerable. Without makeup, she appeared younger, more like the sister I remembered from childhood. Clara, she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. I didn't think you'd come. I needed answers, I replied, keeping my voice neutral despite the storm of emotions churning inside me. We sat across from each other, a gulf wider than the metal table between us. They arrested Ryan, she said unnecessarily. He had fake IDs in the hotel room, passports with different names. His name is Daniel, I reminded her. And yes, Detective Miller told me, he's wanted in multiple states. Maya's face crumpled. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know who he really was. Maybe not at first, I conceded. But you knew what you were doing when you took my money. Eva's college fund. Maya, her future. She flinched at the mention of Eva. How is she? Confused. Hurt. She loved you, you know. Idolized you. Maya covered her face with her hands. I've ruined everything. Yes, I agreed, not softening the blow. You have. What I need to know is why. What happened in Tampa that Ryan could use against you? Her hands dropped, her eyes widening. How do you know about Tampa? I heard you mention it on the phone, and Eva's videos caught Ryan threatening to tell me about it. What did you do that was so terrible? Maya glanced at the guard standing by the door, then leaned forward, lowering her voice. 2 years ago, I was in Tampa with some friends. We were at this club, and I met a guy. He was older, successful. We hit it off, went back to his hotel. She paused, swallowing hard. The next morning, I noticed his wedding ring on the bathroom counter. He'd taken it off at the club. When I confronted him, he offered me money to keep quiet. $10,000. I was broke, about to be evicted. Her voice trailed off. You took it, I finished for her. She nodded miserably. It got worse. He started calling, wanting to see me whenever he was in town, offering more money each time. It went on for months before I finally blocked his number and moved. You were blackmailing him, I stated flatly. I didn't see it that way then. I told myself he was just paying for companionship. She laughed bitterly. I was no better than a... Don't, I interrupted. That's not what this is about. Ryan found out somehow. He had this way of getting me to tell him things, then using them against me later. He said if I didn't help him get your money, he'd tell you everything. That you'd be disgusted with me. That I'd lose you and Eva forever. So, instead, you chose to steal from us. I believed him when he said we'd pay it back. Her eyes pleaded for understanding. He showed me investment returns, business plans. It all seemed legitimate. By the time I realized what was really happening, we were already in Las Vegas, and he was gambling away thousands at the casino. I studied my sister's face, searching for the truth. Was she lying now to save herself, or had she genuinely been manipulated by a practiced con man? The answer was probably somewhere in between. Not innocent, but perhaps not as calculating as I'd feared. The DA is offering you a deal, I said. Finally, testify against Ryan, Daniel, and they'll reduce your charges. 18 months instead of 5 years. Hope flickered in her eyes. You'd you do that for me? After what I did? I'm not doing it for you, I clarified. I'm doing it because sending you to prison for 5 years won't get my money back. This way, you'll serve less time and have to make restitution. Her face fell at my cold logic. I understand. Do you? Because I need you to fully comprehend what you've done, Maya. You didn't just take money. You betrayed my trust completely. You broke Eva's heart. You damaged our family in ways that might never heal. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right. I promise. Promises from you don't mean much right now, I said, standing up. Take the deal. Cooperate fully. Pay back every cent you can. That's the only path forward I can see right now. Clara, wait, she called as I turned to leave. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I paused at the door, the question hanging heavily between us. I don't know, I answered honestly. Right now, I can't even imagine it. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of my life. With only $26,000 recovered, I was facing a severe financial crisis. My emergency fund was depleted. Eva's college savings nearly wiped out. I had to take on freelance projects on weekends just to make ends meet, often working until midnight after Eva was asleep. My coworkers, upon learning what happened, organized a surprise fundraiser that brought me to tears. Family Emergency Fund for Clara and Eva. Read the online campaign they created, which raised nearly $7,000 from colleagues, clients, and even competitors in our industry. Their kindness was a bright spot in an otherwise dark time. Eva, remarkable child that she was, never complained about our suddenly tighter circumstances. No more weekly pizza nights, no summer camp this year, fewer new clothes. She accepted each change with a maturity that both impressed and concerned me. No 9-year-old should have to be that grown-up. I arranged for her to see the school counselor, worrying about the psychological impact of her aunt's betrayal. Ms. Green, the counselor, assured me that Eva was processing the situation remarkably well. She feels empowered by her role in solving the crime, Ms. Green explained during our parent conference. Rather than feeling victimized, she sees herself as the hero of the story. But is that healthy? I worried. Shouldn't she be more upset? Children are resilient, Miss Taylor. And Eva has a strong sense of justice. She's hurt by her aunt's actions, certainly, but she's focused on the fact that the bad guys were caught. That's actually a very healthy response. I wished I could say the same for my own emotional state. I oscillated between rage and grief. Sometimes waking in the middle of the night from dreams where Maya and I were children again, innocent and inseparable. Other times, I'd find myself compulsively checking my bank accounts, paranoid about further theft, despite the changed passwords and added security measures. Maya called from jail 3 weeks after her arrest. I almost didn't accept the collect call, but something, habit, perhaps, or lingering sisterly concern, made me agree. I took the deal, she said without preamble. I'm testifying against Ryan, Daniel, whatever his name is. Good, I replied, uncertain what else to say. They're transferring me to a facility in Washington next month to serve my sentence. 18 months, like you said. And I'll be on probation after that with restitution payments. I nodded, then realized she couldn't see me. That's good. Clara, I need to see you before they transfer me. Please. There are things I need to say in person. My first instinct was to refuse. What could she possibly say that would make any difference? But the raw vulnerability in her voice gave me pause. I'll think about it, I said finally. And Eva, could I see her, too? Just once. Absolutely not, I said firmly. You've done enough damage there. The call ended soon after, leaving me with a decision to make. Did I owe Maya one last visit? Did I need it for my own closure? The questions plagued me for days, until I finally made up my mind. I would see her once more before her transfer. Not for her sake, but for mine. To look my sister in the eye, and try to understand how we had arrived at this broken place. To search for any possibility of redemption, however distant it might be. The county detention center looked even more dismal in the light of early morning. I'd chosen a weekday visit, leaving Eva with Mrs. Evans after school, rather than subjecting her to this place. The guard escorted me to the same sterile meeting room where I'd seen Maya 3 weeks earlier. When she entered, I noticed subtle changes. Her jumpsuit hung looser on her frame, suggesting weight loss. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but her expression was calmer, more settled than before. "Thank you for coming," she said, taking the seat across from me. "I wasn't sure you would." "Neither was I admitted. We sat in uncomfortable silence for a moment. 28 years of shared history. Suddenly insufficient for conversation. "I've been seeing a therapist here," Maya finally said. "Part of the pre-sentencing program. It's been illuminating." "In what way?" I frowned. She traced a pattern on the metal table with her finger. "We've been talking about patterns. How I've spent my whole life defining myself in relation to you." "What does that mean?" I asked. "When we were kids, after Mom and Dad split, you became everything to me. Mother, sister, best friend. You were perfect in my eyes. Responsible, smart. Together, everything I wasn't. I was just doing what needed to be done," I said, uncomfortable with her characterization. "I know that now. But back then, I put you on this pedestal. And as I got older, I started to resent it. Resent you. Because no matter what I did, I couldn't measure up." The words stung, but contained a ring of truth I couldn't deny. "So, I started acting out," she continued. "Making choices I knew you wouldn't approve of. Doing things specifically because they would disappoint you. It was childish and stupid, but it was the only way I knew to establish my own identity." "By stealing from me?" I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. "No, that was different. That was—" She paused, seeming to wrestle with herself. "That was the culmination of years of bad decisions. Of choosing men who were exciting but terrible for me. Of wanting shortcuts to the stability you had worked so hard for." I studied my sister's face, seeing glimpses of the little girl who had followed me everywhere, mixed with the troubled woman she had become. When I met Ryan Daniel, I thought he was different. Charming, ambitious. Interested in me for myself, rather than what I could do for him. I was so desperate to be loved that I ignored every red flag. "There were many," I noted dryly. "So many," she agreed with a sad smile. "But the biggest one was how he drove a wedge between you and me. How he isolated me from the one person who had always been there for me." "Classic abuser tactic," I said, remembering articles I'd read about relationship manipulation. "My therapist said the same thing." Maya leaned forward, her eyes meeting mine directly. "Clara, what I did was inexcusable. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I haven't earned that. But I need you to know that I am genuinely, deeply sorry. Not just for the money, but for betraying your trust. For hurting Eva. For throwing away everything you did for me." The sincerity in her voice caught me off guard. I had expected excuses, deflection, perhaps even blame. Instead, I was hearing what sounded like genuine remorse. "The money," I began. "I'll pay back every cent," she interrupted. "I've already arranged with the DA to garnish any prison wages and future earnings until it's fully repaid. It will take years, but I'll do it." "It's not just about the money, Maya." "I know," she drew a shaky breath. "It's about the fact that I destroyed our relationship. That I hurt the two people I love most in the world. That I chose a con man over my own sister and niece." Tears filled her eyes but didn't fall. "I don't expect you to believe me now. Words are cheap, especially from someone who's lied as much as I have. But I'm going to prove it to you. Day by day, year by year, for as long as it takes. Even if you never speak to me again after today, I'm going to make this right somehow." I sat back, absorbing her words. There was a conviction in them I hadn't heard from Maya before. Not the desperate promises of someone trying to escape consequences, but the measured determination of someone facing them head-on. "Daniel goes to trial next month," I said, changing the subject slightly. "Will you testify?"
Yes.
About everything. Tampa, the schemes, how he targeted other women, whatever they need.
She paused.
He's been writing me letters from jail. Threatening at first, then apologetic, then promising we could still be together when this is all over. I'm not responding. My therapist says it's part of the cycle, keeping me emotionally engaged, maintaining control even from jail. I'm done being controlled. For the first time since discovering the theft, I felt a flicker of hope for my sister. Not forgiveness. That was still too distant a prospect. But hope that perhaps she might finally be confronting the patterns that had led her here. How's Eva? Maya asked tentatively. She's resilient. Doing well in school. The counselor says she's processing everything in a healthy way. I hesitated, then added, she asks about you sometimes. Maya's eyes widened. She does? She wants to know if you're okay, if you're sorry for what you did. And what do you tell her? The truth. That you made very bad choices that hurt a lot of people, and now you have to face the consequences. But that, yes, I think you are sorry. A tear finally escaped, tracking down Maya's cheek. Thank you for that. For not painting me as a monster to her. Eva loves you despite everything. Children have an amazing capacity for love, even when adults don't deserve it. Will I ever see her again? The question was barely audible. I don't know, Maya. That depends on many things. On you, on her, on how the next few years go. I won't force her either way. When the time comes. She nodded, accepting this uncertain future as the best answer I could give. When the guard indicated our time was nearly up, Maya reached across the table, her hand stopping short of touching mine. There's one more thing I need to say, she began. Something my therapist and I have been working on. I need to take full responsibility, without excuses. She straightened her shoulders. I stole from you. I betrayed your trust. I hurt your daughter. These were my choices, regardless of Ryan's influence. I alone am responsible for what I did, and I will accept whatever consequences come from it, legal and personal. The words seemed rehearsed, but sincere. A therapeutic exercise transformed into genuine accountability. Thank you for saying that, I said quietly. It matters. As I stood to leave, Maya remained seated, hands folded in front of her. Will you write to me? She asked. Just occasionally. Let me know how you and Eva are doing. I paused at the door. I'll think about it. It wasn't a promise, but it wasn't a refusal either. For now, it was all I could offer. True to her word, Maya testified against Daniel the following month. His trial revealed a pattern of crimes spanning nearly a decade. Multiple identities, countless victims, hundreds of thousands of dollars stolen from vulnerable women and their families. With Maya's testimony and evidence from other victims, he was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Maya began her 18-month sentence at a minimum security facility in Washington state. True to her words, she wrote regularly. Letters I didn't answer at first, then began to read, and eventually, months later, started to reply to with brief updates about our lives. The healing process was slow and painful. Some days, the anger would return full force, especially when financial stress hit hardest. Other days, I'd find myself missing the sister I thought I had, the person I believed Maya to be before the betrayal. Therapy helped, both for Eva and for me. So did time. The sharp edges of betrayal gradually dulled, not into forgiveness exactly, but into a kind of acceptance. What had happened couldn't be undone. The question was how to move forward. 1 year after Maya's arrest, our lives had found a new normal. I'd received a significant promotion at work, partly due to a major client I'd brought in through one of my weekend freelance projects. Eva was thriving in school, her brief detective career having sparked an interest in computer science and technology. She joined a coding club and spent hours creating simple games and programs. The restitution payments from Maya's prison job were small but steady. Combined with what had been recovered initially and my increased salary, we were slowly rebuilding our financial security. It would be years before we fully recovered, but the acute crisis had passed. On a warm Saturday afternoon, I received a letter unlike the others Maya had sent. This one contained a small, handmade card, carefully crafted from materials available in prison. Colored pencil drawings, origami flowers for Eva. The envelope specified, "If you think it's appropriate." Inside, Maya had written a simple message. "Dear Eva, I'm sorry for the hurt I caused you and your mom. You were brave and smart and did the right thing. I'm working hard to become someone worthy of knowing you again someday. With love, your Aunt Maya." I showed it to Eva that evening, watching her face carefully as she read it. "What do you think?" I asked when she finished. "I think Aunt Maya is really sorry," she said thoughtfully. "Can I write back to her?" The question caught me off guard. "You want to?" Eva nodded. "Not a lot. Just to tell her I got her card. Is that okay?" I considered the request. The counselor had advised following Eva's lead regarding contact with Maya, emphasizing that forcing either communication or separation could be harmful. "Yes," I decided. "You can write a short letter if you want to. I'll read it before we send it." "Okay. Okay." She hugged me tightly. "Mom, are you still mad at Aunt Maya?" I stroked her hair, considering my answer carefully. "I'm still hurt by what she did, but I'm not as angry as I was. She's trying to make things right, and that matters." "Will she come live with us again when she gets out of jail?"
No, sweetheart.
"That won't happen. But maybe someday we might see her occasionally in a public place, with supervision at first. If she continues to show she's changed." Eva seemed satisfied with this answer, accepting the complex reality with the adaptability children often show. In the months that followed, a tentative communication developed. Cards and letters exchanged on birthdays and holidays. Brief updates shared through carefully composed notes. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was something. A tiny bridge being rebuilt across a chasm of betrayal. Maya was released after serving her full 18 months. As required by her probation, she moved into a halfway house, found a job at a local restaurant, and continued therapy. Her restitution payments increased with her waitressing income and tips. 6 months after her release, we met at a park near my home. Neutral territory, public and safe. The woman who approached our bench looked both familiar and strange. My sister, but humbled. Her designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and a sweater, her once perfect makeup minimal and subdued. Our conversation was awkward, halting, filled with the weight of everything that had happened. Eva, more resilient than either of us, broke the tension by showing Maya her latest coding project on a tablet, a simple game she'd created where a detective character collected clues to solve mysteries. It brought a surprising wave of laughter from all of us. That meeting didn't magically restore our relationship. Nothing could erase the betrayal or instantly rebuild trust shattered so completely. But it was a beginning. A tentative step towards something new. Not the blind trust of before, but a cautious, eyes wide open connection, built on accountability rather than obligation. Through this painful journey, I learned lessons I never expected. That sometimes the people closest to us can cause the deepest wounds. That forgiveness isn't a single decision, but a daily choice. That boundaries aren't selfish, but necessary for healthy relationships. And most importantly, that listening to a 9-year-old's instincts might be the wisest choice of all. I also learned that family isn't defined by unconditional acceptance of harmful behavior, but by the courage to hold loved ones accountable while leaving room for genuine change. True love sometimes means walking away until healing can happen for both parties. Today, 3 years after that terrible discovery, Maya and I speak monthly. She's making steady restitution payments and building a new life, modest but honest. Eva sees her occasionally, always with me present. Trust returns in microscopic increments, earned through consistent actions rather than empty promises. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if Eva hadn't been so observant, so brave, so determined to protect us. Would Maya have eventually returned on her own? Would she have recognized Daniel's manipulation without the legal consequences that forced her to confront reality? Would I have ever learned the truth about my sister's resentment and jealousy that fueled her choices? I'll never know. But I do know this. The greatest wisdom sometimes comes from the most unexpected sources, like a 9-year-old who saw what I couldn't see and acted when I wouldn't. Have you ever experienced a moment when a child's perception cut through adult blindness to reveal an uncomfortable truth?